All right. It is Groundhog's Day again. We are recording this the weekend before Groundhog Day. And joining me, you can see on the screen, we have Brett Franklin. Previous to the show, he helped us out with some Ohio State stuff. Greg's been on the show. Greg Kirchner's been on the show a ton. And joining us for the first time, we have Carl Senafani. Carl, you're up in the Cleveland area, is that correct?
That's right. That's right. I'm in Independence, so just a little bit south of Cleveland.
Okay. All right. Very good. You've been to the new Top Golf there yet?
Plenty of times. It's right. I mean, I could probably hit a 3-wood from my house and hit it.
Nice. All right. I got to get up there. All right. So
it's beautiful.
Obviously, we're going to be talking about. We're going to try to go into kind of like a deep dive here of the movie Groundhog Day. It is a 1993 movie. It actually came out just after Groundhog Day, February 12th, 1993. It's directed by Harold Ramis, who you might remember as Egon Spangler from the Ghostbusters. Some other popular things in this movie. You're going to recognize the Sonny and Cher song, I Got You, Babe. Just some other interesting things. Obviously, the movie itself is based in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. It wasn't actually filmed there. We'll talk about that. It stars Bill Murray, Andy McDowell, Chris Elliott, and we'll talk about some other people in the movie, and we'll talk about the cast here in a little bit. So to start us off, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show us the video version, but I'm going to play the audio version of the movie trailer. So let's just take a listen to that.
He's spending the day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Phil? Man Ryerson, I did the whistling belly button trick at the high school talent show.
Bing!
Bing!
But Phil's about to find out. He's not just stuck in Punxsutawney.
Will you be checking out today, Mr. Converse?
Chance of departure today, 100%. He's stuck.
Groundhog Day!
Groundhog Day. I'm reliving the same day over and over.
Phil?
Ned Ryerson.
Phil!
Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
All right, so there's the basic trailer there for the movie. So I'm going to just say cheers, first of all, to you gentlemen. I'm drinking my sweet vermouth on the rocks with a twist. But
is it as bad as his facial expression made it seem to be?
I can't imagine. I can't imagine sweet vermouth on the rocks with a twist is any good at all. I just
no.
The sweet is like as sweet as a total tease.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'll tell you what. Let's just get in. Let's start off with the cast here. So we know Bill Murray. Bill Murray plays Phil Connors. Obvious, big time movies, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters. One I'm not familiar with that's highly acclaimed is Rushmore, Space Jam, Zombieland, Stripes, I believe. What about Bob?
Yeah.
Scrooge, and obviously he was an SNL cast member. I probably missed a few movies there, but anyone want to take a shot at Bill Murray's career and kind of like what he's famous for, all that stuff?
I'll jump in to start. I'm certainly a Bill Murray guy. Thanks for having me on first time, but I always remember I watched, I'm a huge Caddyshack fan, being a Bill Murray fan, and Bill Murray, he was one of the funniest guys on SNL, and I wasn't a huge SNL guy at the time because I was very young, but I still remember a lot of people talking about how Bill Murray and Chevy Chase are in Caddyshack, and then, they shot the entire movie and they realized that they had two of the biggest heavyweights in comedy at the time, these up and coming actors, and they didn't have a single scene together in the movie. It's like, how could that even be? So it wasn't until the movie was done that they shot the scene where Chevy Chase hits a golf ball into, Bill Murray's groundskeeper hut or whatever, and then he shoots it through, and it's a tremendous scene if you remember it or don't or haven't seen it. But so then, and Harold Ramis wrote Caddyshack. So then it brings him into this movie. And, I know, I'm sure, Greg, I know you got a lot of the research, so I won't jump too deep into, the cast, but I know Bill Murray tries to bring his brother in as often as possible. And it was just like him coming through here and getting these starring roles, and not, as huge as he was in Caddyshack. He was really supposed to be a minor-ish role. So like those types of things all leading up, I thought I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I know, I should have watched it more recently, and I know you guys have, but I would still, as many times as I've seen Groundhog Day, put my Groundhog Day knowledge right up there. But yeah, Bill Murray is definitely somebody I watch quite a bit of when I can.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that scene in Caddyshack, because I think that's one of the all-time great, just random ass like scenes where it literally is two giants going head to head, and it's like, and I was really like, when I think like Bill Murray, it's interesting researching his career, because he's had sort of an interesting career. He's definitely I would say, he's certainly a comedic genius. I think nobody would deny that. I think he's had some bumps in the road in his career, like a lot, because he's just seemingly kind of a difficult guy to get along with. He's had a lot of issues with directors, co-stars, so on and so forth. So he sort of had this kind of bumpy career with some great moments. It had actually, Carl, a little different than you. Like this is one of those movies, I think everybody's seen it, but it had been a while since I've like kind of watched it through, and I hadn't probably in my life watched it that much. So I was interested to rewatch it through, and, upon rewatch, I enjoyed it, no doubt. It's more of there's a more rom-com side of this than I guess remember. Really, the back half of the movie is
big time,
not all that comedic. But enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Bill Murray movie. Caddyshack, not to go crazy on Caddyshack, but Caddyshack's my favorite Bill Murray movie, and Carl Spackler is probably one of the 5, in my opinion, greatest comedic characters of all time. So
agreed.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories of Murray is actually SNL, and it's not that I was like a huge SNL fan, and obviously it was well before my time anyway, but it was a skit they did of, I think it was called it was like a water. They're selling water, and it was like an SNL commercial, and it was called Swill, I think.
Okay.
And it was Lake Erie water. And as they're pouring it out, it pours out like gel, and it has needles and stuff like pouring out with it. But then I think another movie, and I'm not going to like expound too much on what those two said either, because they really hit a lot of points. But one movie I never really watched of Bill Murray's, and I did this year around Christmas time, was Scrooge.
Oh yeah.
And I never really paid attention to that movie. I usually would skip it. I'm like, I don't really care to see it, because it's probably more of to me, nothing stands up like the Muppet Christmas Carol. So I didn't want to watch something else. But I did this year. It was pretty good. I was actually surprised.
Well, I'm glad you actually said Scrooged, Franklin, because I think that movie kind of parallels this one in a sense of his performance. He starts out as a real asshole, and he kind of like ends up a nice guy, and I think that's kind of where those two things parallel. So I didn't mean to cut you off. If you
no. I was pretty much wrapping up there. It's just like I said that some of my favorite movies of him again are the same thing. Caddyshack. I think some of the things there were there's some like iconic scenes there, and I think I even sent Greg a meme the other day where it's just like, yeah, so I got that going for me.
It's nice.
It's him and movie. I mean, Caddyshack's just again. I don't want this to be a Caddyshack show, but I would put Caddyshack on the short list of things to deep dive on. But it was just like it was one of those movies where they just started to let these guys go. And yeah, that Bill Murray talking about the Dalai Lama and like I got that going for me is just it's you could tell it's just him. It's just him kind of spitballing. And I think he is like, he's sort of, you know, when the weirder he is, the better, I think. And that is like that character in Caddyshack is like peak weirdness. And he's also got the, I'm kind of a dick, but like, I want to be nice and I'm kind of awkwardly funny thing going too. And he's got that in Groundhog Day and Scrooged.
Yeah.
That's sort of his corners.
Well, and let's not forget, there's a lot of drugs done in the 70s and 80s too.
God, yes.
Yeah. I'll actually say though, I think my, you know, and not to be too, you know, anti the norm, but I think my favorite Bill Murray movie is Stripes. I mean, that to me, and he actually is the star in that movie, and I think that's a big part of it. Him with Harold Ramis, you know, they co-star together, and you know, up until, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Stripes, but they're, you know, the beginning of the movie, they're all like just whipping him into shape and all that, and then about the middle of the movie, they go to, you know, they get their army unit gets assigned to this special assignment in Italy. And once they go there, to me, the movie really falls downhill. It's just like it's like two movies, and it becomes, you know, it's like they should have stopped the movie and then started a new one once they got there. Cause then it became like, it went from like a comedy, you know, a lot of physical humor, John Candy, all these guys. And then it goes to like this rom-com where they're trying to, you know, have this romantic relationship with these other two. But those are my favorites. I mean, the thing that, you know, Caddyshack's probably up there with me too, only because of how much of it for Bill Murray is absolutely just like pretend. It's all, he just makes it all up. You know, the scene where chopping the roses and pretending to hit a golf ball, the whole scene was in the original script. And I did, you know, I'm a big Caddyshack fan, so I know some of the stuff, but in the original script, the whole thing just says like Carl Spackler playing with flowers or something like, and that's it. And then he just makes up the entire thing. In that scene where, like you're talking about, he's talking about the Dalai Lama and he has that pitchfork up against the kid's throat. Like he just, you know, that is not in the script at all. That's the best part. But yeah, anyway, I could talk about it for a while.
Yeah, Stripes was good, and I think in sort of talking about like that off with Caddyshack too. Like you had actually ended up having two giants with John Candy in there as well. The one thing about Stripes that I wonder if it held me back was like because I didn't see that till well after the fact, probably not until college, and I had already seen Revenge of the Nerds, and there's a lot of parallels between those two movies. And so it's hard to like kind of like they're basically the same story except in different context. But yeah, the Stripes, I think when you also look at his character, and it's just, you know, his best characters have been he's either playing a jackass or he's playing an asshole. One of the two. So either way, he's an ass, but it's just a matter of which side he falls on.
Well, let me just jump in on that point then too. And actually, this movie, he was like the third or fourth choice for this movie. I know Tom Hanks was, I think, the big guy they wanted to get for this role, but they basically said he was too nice for this role.
He wanted to fit this role at all.
Exactly, because people would have a hard time believing he could be an asshole at the beginning, especially. I want to say John Travolta, who I cannot stand.
No,
I don't see how this looks like with Travolta.
But he was one of the guys, and I want to say the other person, there might be more, was Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Who was?
I could see that.
Keaton and Hanks. If you like in the '90s, Keaton and Hanks were kind of they were the two main guys. So they almost were like rivals in a way.
Yeah.
The other one I heard that actually maybe could have worked was Steve Martin, because I feel like Steve Martin does have that.
Yeah.
If you were to say there's anything missing from, in my opinion, from Bill Murray in this role is he the romantic side is a little rough. I just like, is he really now again, I think if anybody had 30 years of to hone all their skills necessary to get a girl, they probably could do it. But like, I don't know. Like he has no game whatsoever.
I mean,
but at least I think he's aware of it. We could get into that later, but Steve Martin, I think at least could have like played that side of it better. And he does have, like, if you think of him in like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, he could be a dick too. So I feel like Steve Martin would have been interesting in this role. But yeah, these other guys were just kind of too nice, or just, you just have, you have to have that undertone of dick.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing where you said he doesn't have game. Actually, if you think of Nancy, he had game. He was able to pull the one-nighter like that. It was a matter of making it last. He had no game in making it last. He didn't know how to do it for sure. But he definitely had game.
That's fair. I have a take on that though. Like, I wish he would have I wish he would have taken a swing. Like I think you're right. Like, he definitely got her for a night, but he had to do the recon before to get it. I wish he would have just gone for it once, just to see, like, hey, let's see if I can pick up this girl. But he's like, nope, I can't get her. I need to have the high school in. But you're right. Again, he
also had that girl that he brought to the quote unquote costume party.
Yeah, right.
At the same time, I believe that she had to, I mean, that's the course of the movie. At the same time, I think she had to wear on him a little bit too. I don't think he was interested in her in the beginning of the movie. I think that was part of the Groundhog Day being, I don't want to say stuck, but stuck with the same, woman for that period of time. And he's like, oh, I think I do kind of like her. So I don't know if I think it was a two-way street on that.
That's a really good way to look at it. Yeah.
Now, real quick before we get to the rest of the cast here, last Bill Murray thing, and you guys both said it, at least Franklin and Greg said it, when Bill Murray's not the most attractive movie star there is, to put it lightly. It kind of looks like he ran a race or had a lot to drink the night before. Pretty much every night he wakes up, and like going back to like his role, and I would say my favorite Bill Murray is Ghostbusters, but I think the thing with him is he portrays this level of like cockiness, almost like an arrogance, and I think that's kind of where he can seal the deal with some of the females maybe, but and I can't think he's like, oh, I told you to call me whatever when they're going to that movie and after he robs the bank. So but yeah, I don't know, that's why I think he's kind of got that swag. It's definitely not on the looks, because he's, again, not the most attractive movie star out there. So let's talk a little bit about the rest of the cast. One, basically the co-star in this movie is Andie MacDowell, who plays Rita. She was in Sex Lies, Videotape, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I'm not familiar with Hudson Hawk, but that was one of her main credits. And then St. Elmo's Fire, and she was in a bunch of other different movies and series. But what's your guys' thoughts on Carl? If you want to start, what's your thoughts on Rita or Andie MacDowell in this movie?
I mean, she's a dish. I'm not really familiar with all her, I don't like follow her work or anything like that, but certainly at the time, I think she plays this role really well. I think that, she plays the, like, just innocent, hoping everyone has a nice day. Like, it's like she's can't believe that Bill Murray is mean. Like, can't believe it in the beginning of the movie, And it's like, well, why can't you just, like, what's the matter? Why aren't you happy? And I think that it's something like that Bill Murray was, immediately unattracted to in the beginning of the movie, but it sort of wears on him because she is, a very attractive and likable person that he's, and I think that's the whole point of them, is that he goes through it so many times that he starts to realize what he wants, what's important, all these things, and to just enjoy life like she did from the very beginning.
Absolutely. Greg or Brett?
I thought she was pretty good in the role. I think her in a way, I know at least I know because I've seen them. They're not ones I go back to, repeatedly by any means. But she's always had that kind of like sweet, innocent, but yet independent kind of feel to her. And that was Rita. That she can survive on her own if she needs to. She doesn't necessarily want to, but she can. And so she knows what she wants, and so she's I thought in this way, I thought that really brought out like her primary attributes for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and I know we're going to talk about like our favorite parts, and this is not my favorite part of the movie, but it's something that stood out to me on watching it again, was the opening scene. Like it kind of summarizes, it kind of summarizes Phil and Rita. Like you get that kind of snapshot. He's being Bill Murray in front of with the weather, and when he's like blows the front over, like that's great Bill Murray. It's hilarious, but it's like an undertone of I'm bigger than this place. Like I'm moving on somewhere else. Like I don't really like what I'm doing. And then they show her and she's like playing, and she just thinks it's hilarious. And like, just that, oh my gosh, I can point here and do that. And then like on the ride in, she's all excited. I mean, that tells you kind of everything you need to know. And I think she is perfectly cast. Like I don't even know. I didn't see anything about like anybody else that was considered for that role. I mean, probably at that time, it's like, that's in the Julia Roberts, like Meg Ryan, Michelle Pfeiffer wouldn't be good, but I can't think of anybody else like who would. I think she was probably like, you probably don't want somebody like too well known in that role. Like if you had a Julia Roberts, or you had somebody with like too much, it would just, you have to feel like she's smaller than Phil in a way, like as far as just presence and things like that. Like obviously, so I think it was a great role, and I thought she did a great job. And I like that she kept her Southern accent too, because then you have a little bit of mystery, like where did she come from? Clearly she's not a lifer in the Midwest, and she's not even seemingly a lifer in the TV industry either.
Right. A couple interesting things I just thought from her character were, one, she kind of almost dresses a little bit like she's Amish or Mormon. Not that any of our Amish or Mormon friends are out there watching, and hopefully they don't stop watching. But I kind of think they dressed her like anti-sexy on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You might think like she's, but if you would like put her in a different complete outfit, like I think that gives a whole different feel to her as well. So I think she played the character perfect, like you said, and she didn't like outshine Bill Murray in a sense. I think that was part of the deal there. But she becomes a very, very likable character pretty much from the beginning of the show to the end, or from the beginning of the movie to the end. So I thought she did a great job, and they did a good job of casting with her. An interesting fact that I read about her, though, apparently she's a nudist, or was a nudist. So I don't know. I don't know much about that, but that was just in some article I read about her. So let's switch to, I would say there's basically three main characters in this movie, really two, but then like the kind of the third wheel here is Chris Elliott, who plays Larry, the camera guy. So Chris Elliott is that character, and Chris Elliott is basically been in every kind of series, even dating way back to David Letterman when he was on late night. And he was a writer on SNL. I think he was a cast member on SNL for one full season. I'm going to throw it up on my background here, but like anytime I think of Chris Elliott,
I think I know where this is going.
It's got to be something about Mary. It's got to be.
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Throw you for a loop here. That would probably be my second one. So, but yeah, people know him from There's Something About Mary and many other things. Sorry, I'm trying to find the thing here, but so it's this one right here. So I don't know if you remember in it's a scary movie series where he's
It's
like,
my
yeah,
strong
yeah.
hand.
let me pick it up with my strong hand. So when I think of Chris
Strong
Elliott, that's what I think of. And I know he's been on a shit ton of other things, but that's my immediate first thought when I think of him. So so Brett, you want to take this one on Chris Elliott?
Yeah, I mean he's pretty funny. Like in his roles, it's never really been a major role. The only time I recall there being a major role for him was some random show on Adult Swim that ran for like 4 years.
Okay.
Like he was like the main character, and he was some like, if I remember correctly, it was he was like a detective, but he was like a trashy detective, like hillbilly trashy detective, and it was just it was late night at that point in time. I'm like, we're in the work world, so there's no staying up for it, but I know like it was on, and it he's never really had that like major role. It's always been that really funny supporting character.
Yeah.
His humor is pretty dry. It at times it's not like Bill Murray, like these one liners and or stuff like that, but it's he's been pretty good. I've usually when he's in movies, I'm usually enjoying the movie, probably.
No doubt. Greg?
I can't look at him and not think of, you don't flog the dolphin before a big date. And just picturing them all broken out towards the end of the movie. Yeah, this is. I mean, let's be honest. This is kind of a nothing part, and it's like he's still like he sort of has his moments, and I like how he goes for it with Nancy in the end and strikes out. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of a. There wasn't much really. You're like the cameraman, so like there's just not a whole lot. He didn't have a lot to work with here, but he's certainly a funny guy.
And I just want to make one more point on him. The other thing, I think there's something about Mary. I actually said second. I think it's the third thing I think about. The other thing, and I never really got into this show until a few years back, but
Everybody loves Raymond.
He is the
Oh yeah, I
brother for
Wow.
Robert's wife. Robert's wife's weird ass brother in that show. So yeah, Carl.
That's what I was gonna go to for sure. I mean, he's like, I got into that show later on for sure. Like once it was all over, like probably in the last 5 years, I got into Everybody Loves Raymond just because my wife likes it. But it's he's like the annoying, and that's the thing is that he is the weirdest dude in that show, and that's what I think of when I see him. But it's funny because when you go back to the cameraman, his role here in Groundhog Day, it is like, yeah, it's a nothing part, but he just has that slight annoying undertone that he's like this guy that could easily get under your skin if you're Bill Murray. Like if you're already a jerk, like this is the kind of guy who would be a punching bag for a guy like Bill Murray. And again, I mean, it's super subtle in this movie, but I think he just has it.
Yeah.
He shows it at the end with Nancy. Like how
like, come on.
Yeah, like yeah, he really showed it there at the end with her, that like all of that.
So just a couple other like small characters to hit on that kind of play like kind of important roles. Obviously behind Greg, you see Ned, Needle Nose Ned the Head, all that stuff. That's played by an actor called Stephen Tobolowsky, and he was in a bunch of little like little series and things like that. He was in Spaceballs way back when,
Wow.
and a few other things I looked up on his IMDb, but nothing of like major note that really stuck out to me. But he's just one of those guys you kind of like, if you see him on something, you recognize his face and you immediately think of Groundhog Day. Another interesting.
You would have thought it's more stuff would have happened for him for this, because he steals the show for like, especially the first couple times he's on screen. I mean, this guy goes for it. He's great. You would think he'd have gotten, and maybe he did, but you think he would have gotten something like maybe a little bigger, at least a shot at something after this.
Yeah, agreed. Just a couple other real quick casting points before we move on. There's a guy named Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon he's like that married couple that Bill Murray ends up giving the WrestleMania ticket to? This was actually the very first movie he was in, but he was a big star in Boardwalk Empire. He's been in Batman versus Superman, a lot of like villainous type roles, and he's become a pretty well-known actor in Hollywood. But this was the very first time on screen, at least in a movie, for him. And obviously we talked about earlier back about Bill Murray's brother, Brian. I don't know his full name, but he plays Buster.
Brian Doyle Murray. Yeah.
Brian Doyle Murray. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Bill Murray has 6 brothers.
Yes.
But,
yeah, he's got a lot of brothers.
But he plays Buster Green in the movie, and like Carl said earlier too, he tries to like kind of work him in movies if he can. Greg, I can't remember. You told me he's been in some.
Yeah, so there's some. Yeah, so he's okay. So first, he's in Caddyshack, and you'd barely even. He's Lou, but I mean, he put on a few lbs, I think, between Caddyshack and Groundhog Day.
He's the manager, isn't he?
He's the manager.
Like,
he's the like, hey, we've had shitty. This guy died. The caddy scholarship's open. Poor caddying, all that stuff. He takes the bets. Raised the price of Coke because he lost at the track. That guy. He's like, again, it's a small part, but he's pretty funny. More notable, he's Frank Shirley, and
Frank Shirley from Christmas Vacation.
That voice is so iconic. So I got a deep one though.
Yep.
A deep one. You may know this or may not know this. Seinfeld Bubble Boy episode.
Yep. He's the Bubble Boy dad.
Bubble Boy dad.
That is real.
As soon as you get that voice in your mind, like you now hear it, and you can't unhear his voice because he's got a very unique voice. But that's all I do. Murray. I had no idea about the Bubble Boy.
Speaking of Seinfeld, though, there is another character that also plays in Seinfeld in this movie. Do you know who?
Oh man. Would it be Nancy? Maybe
it's Nancy. She's Margaret. She's the one that Newman broke up with.
She wasn't my type.
Yeah.
Well done.
It's funny because everybody who was kind of anything in the 90s, like as long as they weren't too big, it's like anybody who was kind of emerging in the 90s ended up on Seinfeld at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are.
She didn't do much else. Like I was looking her up. Like I always knew she was in Seinfeld. Like I remember that. But it was like I was looking up her. Like it's a lot of one episode like of a series. Like she did a lot of that. She's been in about 30 some things, but most of it is like one episode type deals.
Well, Nancy, big in at Lincoln High in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Her 12th grade English teacher who
Mrs. Walsh's.
Mrs. Walsh, yeah. So
that was a great scene.
Let me go real quick through the synopsis. I'm just going to go real quick. This is about a paragraph and a half long. So basically the whole plot of the movie, a cynical TV weatherman finds himself reliving the same day over and over again when he goes to a location to a small town in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to film a report about their annual Groundhog Day. His predicament drives him to a distraction until he sees a way of turning the situation to his advantage. So that is a very, very, very short synopsis of the movie, So let's get into what this movie first of all, we know, and it's actually interesting, the military, even to this day, has, they have different things titled Groundhog Days for repeated scenarios. So the military has even incorporated this movie into different terminology that they use. So I thought that was really interesting. And I just wrote these down as comparable movies to Groundhog's Day. Palm Springs, which came out last year. If you have not seen Palm Springs, I believe it was on Hulu.
Yeah,
Fantastic movie with Andy Samberg.
Great movie. And the girl, the mother from How I Met Your Mother.
Yes. So just an awesome movie. Tom Cruise came out with a movie in 2014 called The Edge of Tomorrow. A lot of different things. I even thought of 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And Drew Barrymore. And then Greg, you told me a movie called Source Code. I'm not familiar with that movie, but that was another movie that's.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's on one of the movie channels now. It's got like Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and it's just like it's like some they're on a train and it's like he needs to stop something that's the train from blowing up, so he keeps reliving the same time period.
Until I think it basically he needed to stop the train from blowing up, and until he did, like it just kept replaying.
Okay.
So
those are some comparable movies to Groundhog's Day, but Groundhog's Day was kind of or Groundhog Day was kind of like the epitome, the basis of all these other films, in a sense of, some people can even say time travel, some people might say loop, some people might say multiverse. There's a lot of different like rabbit holes you can go down with this movie, and believe me, I did. So no one truly knows. I did a lot of internet research, and you guys please jump in if when you're ready, but nobody truly knows how many actual days Bill Murray spent. Now, I'm just going to read you off of what I have, and you guys elaborate on this, but somebody that I read an article on said the actual number of days shown on screen is 38 different days, just shown on screen. Days, you add days in that he mentions where he was killed himself or was killed, stabbed, shot, poisoned, electrocuted, burned, frozen, hung. He jumped off a building. He drove into a quarry. He was ran over by a truck. Those are just different ways we see on screen that he says or did die. But I've seen anywhere from 8 years to 10 years. And then even I think Egon, I always call him Egon, Harold Ramis said, technically he lived, they said originally 30 to 40 years in that, which would be about, I think, somewhere in the 12 to 15,000 day range, which is insane to think about. Certain people say he read one page of every book that was in that bed and breakfast he stayed in. That was like in the original plot, but they kind of scrapped that. So I think it's kind of cool they left it ambiguous and like let us figure it out. So I guess whoever wants to take this one,
the 30 to 40 years, I could see it. I could definitely see it. I remember reading something saying maybe like 12 to 15. They're trying to, obviously just trying to kind of piece it all together. I mean, you have to obviously take into context all the stuff that he learned, and some of it was like right away. Like even just watching it today, like when he stole that money that Greg mentioned earlier, dog's gonna bark, dog barked. Wind's gonna blow, wind blows. Here comes the truck pulls up. He knew exactly when everything was gonna do. And you have to think of like the amount of time it takes to kind of get all of those pieces down pat. Justin, we talked yesterday just learning French.
Yeah, right.
Learning everything that happens with everybody in that town on every different scenario.
Yeah.
And to remember it all.
Ice
sculpting. Learning how to ice sculpt. Learning how to play the piano. And he's doing it fluently. It's not even just like some like he's kind of off. Like to learn how to do that takes years upon years upon years. And I don't think he was also doing it simultaneously. He was doing these things one at a time.
Right.
And so I think when you start to pile them up, the years really start to add up.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, I have a real quick theory. I mean, we're talking about the guy that wrote Caddyshack, so I feel it's not Christopher Nolan. So I don't think he wrote it thinking about. I think this is a lot of after the fact stuff coming out. Like, I don't think he wrote it to be like, okay, he lived for 40. I think they just wrote the movie to write the movie, in my opinion. That would be my thought. But then after the fact, and people are like, yeah, how did he become like a classically trained pianist? Well, yeah, it probably took some time.
Right.
Yeah, in my mind, I've never thought of it like that, by the way, in my life until right now. I've never thought of it being like a 10, 20 year thing. I was like, I don't know, a few months. Like, I wasn't like thinking about, I figure I could probably, depending on the girl I was trying to impress, I guess I could pick up a few French phrases, that I needed to, or, I always, when I was like a kid, when I would watch this movie, like for the first time, like, I just thought it was wild that he could just play the piano like that. The ice sculpting, all that stuff. It never like penetrated my mind where I was like, I bet he was stuck in this loop for 20 years. I always thought like, hey, 60 days. I don't know. Like, is that,
Yeah,
is that about what, that's in my head. That's all the longer it ever seemed to me, watching the movie. And I've watched it a million times. I really have. And I never, not even for a second, put it to that sort of like, just like what you said, Greg, like when Harold Ramis wrote it or whatever, or whoever wrote it, it was like, I bet he was like, hey, this would be funny, and put that in there, so it certainly never occurred to me.
So, so I wrote down just off the top of my head the skills that he learned in this movie. So, card tossing was one. They're sitting on the bed and tossing cards, and
Yep.
he even drops a line and says, "It takes about 6 months, about 4 or 5 hours a day to get to be like a perfectionist at this." So that was one thing.
He also dropped the beat a hat, which is a little bit of a Caddyshack
Oh, nice
parallel there. So
Okay.
yeah, there's
Okay.
yeah.
You got one of you guys. I don't know who. I think maybe Carl dropped the ice sculpting one, which was good. Playing the piano, and I've read, and I went totally down a rabbit hole with this. And an expert said to become, now this would become a classically trained pianist, which I think he learns 1 or 2 songs. But to become a classically trained pianist, it takes about 10,000 hours of piano play, which, you do the math on that. If he plays 2 hours a day, that's a lot of days right there. Something that we could do right now is, probably take maybe 2 or 3 days. You can memorize the Jeopardy answers. Come on, at least for
How many years has it been since Ohio State lost to Michigan? 8, 9?
Pickle
2011.
year.
Yeah,
2012 was it? Was that 2012?
11.
Yeah.
Pickle year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
about 10
so
10 years.
we're at like 3,800 days at that point in time. So it takes 2 hours a day at so you're looking at, for classically trained, you're looking at what it would amount to 15 years.
Although I do think it was implied. I was gonna say I do think it was implied that he got a lesson every day from his teacher.
Right.
He did, yeah. He was doing that.
So
but
maybe
it
that
did
cut
take him a
down-
while to get to that point, too.
Maybe that cuts
Remember
down
that.
the time though. How long it takes to be trained. No practice. You just have a lesson every day.
Now again, though, like if he's just learning 1 or 2 songs, he can like maybe just memorize that based on, like, he's not actually reading the music. He's just like memorizing 3 or 4 minutes of where his hands go on the keyboard and things like that. French.
You got to account for the dark period where he's, I don't know how many, if that's
Yeah.
another rabbit hole you can get on. Like, I mean, okay, he killed himself 4 times in the movie, I think, but like it's
How many other times?
this thing went on 40 years. I bet there was like a solid year or 2 where he was just killing himself every day and not being just horrible. I read the trivia.
Well,
They're
he
like,
did
they
say
didn't
he was shot, and they never mentioned, they never showed that.
Some of the IMDb trivia, they said, Harold Ramis and the other guys, they chose not to get into too many dark themes. And I'm like, okay, well, the jumping in front of a truck, jumping off a building, driving a car off a cliff and going up in flames, is that not dark? But I guess they were referring to him murdering people.
Well, that's where they brought in was Chris Collins, is that his name?
Chris.
I'm drawing a blank with the third guy, the third main
Elliot.
character.
Yeah,
Chris
Elliot.
Elliott. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where they. Well, he's okay. And the car blows up. Probably not anymore.
Probably not now.
So dark, but they throw some jokes at it.
Well, let me just go over the other skills shown on screen. So we talked about card tossing, ice sculpting, piano playing, memorizing Jeopardy answers, French poetry. Like Carl said too, he could probably take a day or 2 and memorize a couple lines to impress somebody. But if you're actually learning the French language, that's going to be a little bit more in depth. So they don't, that's kind of ambiguous. Learning everyone's backstory, that's not as easily said as, and done. You got to spend time with people. Like, Greg and Brett, I've known you guys for years and years and years. There's probably parts of your life that I don't know about, and Carl, like I know Carl, but I don't know him as well as you guys. Like there, it would take at least, I would say, a week per character to learn like everyone's backstory. So that's something else that would account for time. And then like the sequence of events, like Brett, you mentioned it earlier, like the robbing the armored truck car, like he would have to like sit down on that bench, wait for them to come. He would I would have to have a notepad, like, oh, the wind's going to blow, the dog's going to bark, this car is going to come at this time, she's going to drop the quarters, I can, sneak up, and there's probably going to be many failed attempts as well.
I was going to say, you got to scan for witnesses. I mean, there's like
he had a very, very small window to get that in. Then he learned it's just walk up, get it, walk away. And like, exactly. But yeah, how many failed attempts did he have prior to that?
Exactly. So, I'm gonna quote two sources, and these were both, and I apologize if those people watch this and they're on YouTube, but because I didn't cite them, but one source said exactly to the day 4,576 days, which would be 12 years, 6 months, and 11 days. Another source said 12,395 days, which is roughly 34 years. And they, I mean, we're doing a deep dive. I mean, those people went into the fucking Indian Ocean. So, I just thought I would throw that out there that was interesting. So, any last thoughts on like number of days or skills that I maybe missed or anything like that?
I really do think that one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's going through the diner. I just think that, learning the backstories. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like the most impressive thing, but that is his time to sort of, demonstrate to Rita that he's going through all this. And like just going through, I just thought it was a great scene. And they have, there's a character actor in that who is a great character actor in like, I don't know, half of all 90s movies. His name was Rick, Greg, help me here. Rick Document or something.
I'm learning this one on the fly here. I don't know. Which one is he?
Is he the guy that was
his name
in the Burbs? Was he the guy from the Burbs?
That's what
maybe. So his name was Rick Document, and he had he was the like when I was
looking it up right now.
Blank Check was a big movie when I was a kid. He was the
I
limo
think that's
driver.
The guy. I think that's him.
He was the limo driver in Blank Check. He was, he had all these things, but like he's fun, like he has a 2 seconds to be funny.
Rick Ducommun.
Yeah,
I think is his
Rick
name.
Ducommun.
I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but that's what it
exactly. No, that's him. That's him. Yeah. And like he's super fun. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Blank Check very well, but I watched that one a lot, and there was all these
$1 million.
Like, he was funny there. Yeah, I know, too funny. But like that scene to me I know it's not on really the topic of how long it was, his number of days and all that, but I love that scene because I think it's hilarious, and even that, just as an example, that that guy is just has like 3 seconds to be funny, and it's just a great scene.
Well, we're gonna go on one of my favorites. Is actually with the same guys, but it's the two when they're drunk after the bowling alley. And,
yes, exactly.
And he's like, first he's like, "You okay?" The red guy goes, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm good." "All right." And he lets him go, and he like falls over. Then Phil's like, "Do you want to throw up outside or inside the car?" "Both."
Both. Yeah.
But then it does lead to like one of my all-time favorite lines, and we've probably said this more than you probably care to remember, but is it too early for flapjacks?
Yeah. Well, I had that marked down as later on in a question segment was what's your favorite? So Carl gave his, Franklin gave his. Greg, what's yours?
Favorite scene or favorite line or both? Or I mean, I just the first Ned scene for me, just like I guess it's hard to say the first, like the obnoxiousness of him in the first scene and just how that sets the stage for every future interaction, including getting punched, is just great for me. And does he say bang or bing or
Bing.
Bing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask if Mike Breen got his 3-point catchphrase from,
Maybe you did.
but maybe he did a little bit. But yeah, bing. That's right.
Well, yeah, to piggyback on that, my favorite scenes when he finally gets comfortable and he's just like, fuck it. And Ned comes up to him and he just clocks him in the face. That's just too good. So
Yeah, the other good one is when with Ned. I think it's actually my favorite Ned scene was he comes up, he's like, Ned, I don't know what you're doing later if you have any time, but
Yeah.
he's got this big full embrace of them.
creeps him out. I love it.
And I don't know if, I mean, we've probably all stepped in slush puddles before, but I just think, like, if anybody has a sarcastic comment, the moment you step into like a 6-inch puddle of slush, like you should be able to punch that person with no repercussions.
100%. I love it.
First step's always a doozy.
All right, so before we get into, like, because we're not going to get into like each individual plot point, that's going to take forever, but we're going to do 2 more segments. We're going to do interesting facts about the movie, and we're going to do like a big question and answer segment. So probably let's shoot for about 25 more minutes on this.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. So interesting facts. I'm just going to give just a 1 or 2, and then like everybody can just jump in, or I know Greg's got a ton of them, but Bill Murray, and I just heard this morning, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, the director, who were obviously in Ghostbusters, did a lot of different things together. I think Stripes as well. They actually did not speak for 21 years after this movie was made. 21 years. So finally, like, a friend convinced Bill Murray to go talk to Harold Ramis, because he was basically on his deathbed. So he went and talked to him, and he gave a nice like little eulogy type thing at the Oscars a few years back. But that really shocked me, because I would have assumed those guys were real good friends off screen. So that's one of mine.
It speaks to if you look up Bill Murray and just, if you go to like his Wikipedia page, and there's paragraphs and paragraphs of like feuds that he's had with various co-stars, and he had a feud with Chevy Chase, and that's part of like, they had a big feud, and that was like possibly part of why they didn't have much time together in Caddyshack. So that's it. That's the sort of the dark side of Bill Murray. That's interesting. And we didn't talk about it, but Harold Ramis is actually the doctor in the this movie.
Yeah, had a cameo.
To go to the shrink. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's shown up in various movies over the years too. He was
Orange County.
Yes. He was in Knocked Up. He was Seth Rogen's dad in Knocked Up when they're like.
Sure was.
Yep. So
wasn't Orange County? Wasn't that Tom Hanks' son too?
I think so.
I don't know that one.
I think that was Tom.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks' son. Yeah.
All right, Greg, I'm gonna let you kind of lead the charge on this category. So any interesting facts you got, just feel free to fire them away.
Well, I have 2 more random. I love the random people and random things. So the bartender, the sweet vermouth and on the rocks bartender. Does anybody know who that guy? That guy is like, I think that guy looks so familiar. So I looked him up. Do you know where he's from?
Well, let me just, like, off the top of my head, is he a black guy?
Yeah, the black guy. Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember about him. I don't remember who he was though.
So he's in The Fugitive. He's Bones in The Fugitive when Cole goes to get the samples. And I always remember this guy because he hasn't, the guy, it's like the worst written character I love The Fugitive. It's like the worst written character ever, because this guy is in the hospital and has no idea that he's talking to the most wanted man in the country, and he's just like, hey, you ever get that thing resolved with your wife? Like, have you read the newspaper like any time in the last week? but that's him. That's Bones, and he's actually like a.
Oh man.
So that was great. But my absolute favorite is the owner of the bed and breakfast, or at least the lady who says, "How did you sleep?" She, anybody know this one?
I just know, like, I know I've seen her in something, but I can't place it.
Seen Ferris Bueller's?
I don't think she's in Ferris Bueller's.
I'm thinking of the wrong woman.
This is so she's the one that just says, like, "How'd you sleep? And you want coffee?" That girl, that lady.
You don't even know how to spell espresso.
Yes. Yes, yeah, the deja vu one. She's in American Wedding. She's Jim's grandma.
No
Ends up in the closet with Stifler. And she's like, not Jewish, and then ends up like hooking up with Stifler.
Yes.
It took me forever to figure that out, and then so that was my favorite.
That's a good one.
Those are the two big ones that I have.
Nice.
Another just random comment is just like I love movies shot in the Midwest because we're all from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could go anywhere from Pennsylvania to Iowa to Wisconsin to Illinois. It doesn't matter. You find any small town and you can call it whatever you want in the Midwest. It's the beauty of the Midwest. And I think this movie was shot in Illinois, but I mean, the Midwest is the Midwest. So that was kind of cool. Those are the main ones I had. I don't know, Justin, if you got some more.
Yeah, a few more. The groundhog in this movie, his actual name is Scooter, and he actually he bit Bill Murray twice. In that driving scene where he's about to drive off the cliff, and Bill Murray was actually bit where he had to go get a rabies shot and maybe like small bandage. So that was something. The kid that falls from that tree. Where he memorizes that kid's gonna fall and he goes and catches him. That kid actually became a local news person in that town. And internationally, Groundhog's Day, it's an American holiday, and I wouldn't even call it a holiday. It's like an American tradition. And if the groundhog sees a shadow, you guys will have to help me out. The groundhog sees a shadow, that means there's 6 more weeks of winter, and then if he doesn't, that means it's an early spring, something like that. But internationally, people don't celebrate Groundhog Day like certain towns do. So this movie is actually titled different in other countries. So I thought that was interesting. And I saw different scenes they brought in fake snow for. Those were some of my most. I have definitely some more, but those
the snow one's a good one because I guess and I'd have to watch this again, but I guess at the very end, when he's about to go out of the time loop and they kiss, he kisses Rita. I guess snow starts to fall.
Okay.
And it's a little bit of it's the same kind of tactic they use in It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
Yep.
Coming back to reality. So it was like the sign right there before the next day that he may have left this time loop.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
That one scene in the diner where he orders all that food and he's eating it and stuff, because there's no, if you're in a loop, there's probably no consequences. Like Rita even says, like diabetes, cholesterol, all that stuff. Like he actually ate everything. And he, a lot of the cast was given spit buckets to do multiple takes. Ate everything, and he ended up getting sick. It said on set, because he ate so much food. So I thought
man,
interesting. So anybody else?
No, I got nothing.
No, when I watch this movie, and actually, that's just one of my, when I watch any movie with his brother in it, I'm like, hey, that's Bill Murray's brother, and people go, really, that's his brother? I say, yeah, look at that. That's his tame. It's very tame. Against all these other trivia questions, but yeah, that's the one that's in my back pocket when I see him.
The one song he plays on the piano, I just have this here, and it's a freaking long name, and it's a Russian name, so I gotta say it. Sergei Rachmaninoff. It's a Rhapsody on Theme by Pagini is the one song he plays, so I had to throw that out there. I wrote it down.
Do you recall that name from any other movie?
Oh God, no.
When I say it, you're gonna remember it.
Oh, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Rachmaninoff. Yep.
Yep.
That's right.
The last thing I had written down here was Groundhog Day, the actual holiday, was started in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, by the Groundhog Club in 1887. So that was the last, and not necessarily about the movie, but kind of about the holiday. So that was the last thing I had really written down.
Is the Brian Doyle Murray character, is he just like the president of the club, or is he like the mayor? I think he's like the main Groundhog Club guy. Main club. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's the mayor. I think he's kind of like he kind of looks like a mayor and acts like a mayor, but yeah, I think he's the main Groundhog Day guy. All right. So you guys ready for some questions? And Greg and I put some of these together. Some of these I came up on my own, and some I stole from IMDb to give them some credit. So, all right, my first question, and I guess we'll start with Carl, and we'll go Carl, Greg, Franklin on this one. So Franklin, you're lucky you get time to think about this. So if you were stuck in an endless loop such as Bill Murray, give me one thing you would do.
Gosh. Does it have to be different than the things that Bill Murray did?
Oh no, it could be.
I mean, those are the.
You have to live within the constraints that he did. So if you want to like do something elaborate, you got to go steal some money from that truck, or whatever it might be. So you can go full Grand Theft Auto if you want, and do whatever you want. But so give me and it could be PG-13, it could be whatever. So whatever you think.
No worse than PG-13.
I hate to be this boring, and but truthfully and honest, I think I would learn the piano. I do. I mean, it's something that's been on a bucket list. I got a couple other bucket list items. That's probably what I would do if I had one day. I wouldn't go try to travel somewhere, because I don't think I'd get there in a day. By the time I fell asleep, you know what I mean? I think that learning the piano I think I would do that. I think that's something that I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you almost have to hone in on a skill, right? Because if everything you do is going to be undone except anything that impacts yourself, kind of takes away from I want to help a bunch of, okay, it'd be great to help people, but it's going away tomorrow,
Right.
So I would probably, similar to what Carl would say, but I would probably I'd practice golf about 10 hours a day. And if I did that for about 12 years, when I got out of the loop, I could probably go play on the PGA Tour.
I'll tell you what, that's
absolutely
nice.
It's a good one.
Brett, you got it?
Yeah, I'm with Greg on the golf. I was thinking the golf side of that too, just because I know we've had conversations of what we would want to get into that is probably the less physically brutal of the sports, and you can last a long time. But the fun answer would be I would bowl and then become Ernie McCracken. And but another answer along Carl's lines though too is I would I've had this thing I want to learn how to do sign language, and so I would spend the time to learn sign language, or he even said even another language, but sign language would be the first.
Okay, all right, that's good. I think I like the idea of learning a skill. I think that's really cool. I think if I had to go a little bit out of that realm, I would probably say I would try to do as many different experiences as I could. So if I'm waking up, the one thing that I always think about that Phil doesn't do, or that we don't necessarily see in the movie, is when he wakes up, why start that loop again? Go get in a car and go somewhere, or go use all the money you have because it's going to be reset tomorrow, and go get on a private jet and fly somewhere, and go to see other parts of the world or country that you might run out of time. But to me, that's always one thought that crosses my mind. It's I could maybe go somewhere or do something else, or like you guys said, learn a skill. So
I think that brings up a weird rabbit hole question, though.
Yeah.
Is
Probably gonna ask.
is this only going over and over again because he's stuck in Punxsutawney? He couldn't get out of Punxsutawney. He was stuck there. So if he found a way to get out of it, would the loop end?
I was just gonna say that. I mean, like he went to bed
Good point.
every day. Like, give it. I would certainly be at some point. I would start experimenting like ways to get out of this thing.
Yeah,
You can't. There's too much snow. That's the whole point.
The blizzard.
The snow doesn't start until after the whole day that they've gone through. So if and usually snow comes west to east or south to north. So if you're in Punxsutawney, you could maybe get to a airport or drive
Get to New York City.
Yeah, get somewhere, and then you can go. I don't know, just some other random thoughts. All right, let's go to this is a deeply loaded question here. So these are a couple internet theories that I read, or and I guess we can expand on. So what do you think caused this loop, caused this Groundhog Day? Was it a curse? Was it a spell? Is Phil actually dead? You know what I mean? Like, I've heard lots of different things and read different things. So what do you guys think about this? Whoever wants to take this one first, take it.
I'll start since I went last time, but I think it's a curse. And my thought is, I think because I went through the paper last night, or the document that you sent over, and I think the bartender has something to do with it. If you recall, like one of the times that one of the last times he pours a drink, he looks back at him and laughs and shrugs his shoulder, like it's like he knows what's been going on.
Okay.
And so, but I think he's cursed, and it's in a dual aspect. He is an asshole, and there's no other way around that. He's an asshole, and he needs to get Rita to fall for him, and in some aspect, that's what it's meant to be. But he has to not only stop being the asshole, he has to also genuinely get her to like him while he's not an asshole. So,
okay, Greg.
That's a really, I probably piggyback off that. That's a really good point. I guess the only explanation, I'm still kind of team, there is no explanation. It's just they just wrote the movie, but I would guess maybe he's in some sort of purgatory.
Okay.
Right? He's dead, and he needs to go ascend to heaven or wherever, the eternal paradise. He needs to kind of right some wrongs. Become
Rita's heaven.
She could be like a. I mean, I don't. Well, then you can.
I'm just joking with you.
No, it's fair though. You could ask the question: was it like, is it getting her that got her out of the loop, or is it really just the fact that he became a much caring and better person and became lovable, and it just happened to be by her? So I guess that would be my own theory.
Well, if you look at some of the things that he had been doing, he actually had been turning things around. He was with the homeless guy, he was giving money, he was doing as much as he can. He was obviously saving that kid from falling out of that tree for God knows how long. He was he just happened to have that tire in the jack.
Right.
He was attempting to be a good person for a long time. It wasn't until she fell for him at the end where.
True.
Okay.
That's when it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just I've never been able to jump on board with the he's dead idea. It just doesn't, because if that were true, then the end wouldn't make any sense to me. But it's fun to look at it that way. I'm certainly in the camp that there is not a deeper meaning. This was not written by, I don't know, Herman Melville or somebody. This was supposed to be. But at the same time, I could say that, like kind of what Brett said, like, he's a terrible person and he needs to become a better person before he comes to it. But just like you said, he was a better person in the middle of the movie. He's like, trying to save that homeless guy from dying a bunch of times and all these other things. So, hard answer. I don't really think there's an underlying theme as much as I like the movie. And I think I think people want to like something, want to add more to something that they love so much to sort of legitimize how much they like it. But in this case, I think that's You don't need it. I don't know.
Well, that pretty much scratches my next two questions. But I'm gonna still.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. That gives a little bit more. I'm just gonna tell you what I was going to ask, and if anyone wants to jump in on it, feel free. Okay, so this is not my theory. This is an internet conspiracy theory, and sometimes I hate this shit, and sometimes I love it. But for this, I wrote it down. Someone out there theorized, like Greg kind of said, that he's in purgatory. You know, his Phil Connor's character is in purgatory, and they actually theorized the guy over Greg's shoulder, Ned Ryerson, is the devil. And here's why. Hear me out. Hear me out. They said Phil doesn't actually escape the loop until he buys insurance from Ned, which is actually signing his soul over to the devil.
That is really.
Oh my gosh!
He also bought every policy humanly possible.
Right. So
that was too funny.
So
and to be and I would say, to be fair, you know, he had been living in this loop, so why not? He hasn't had a reason to worry about money for, well, in worst case scenario, 30 years. Right. So
good
like
point.
You know, just signing up for it's like, yeah, whatever, let's do it.
All right. Yeah. And then this is my last like crazy outside the box question, at least that I think there is. So, and I stole this from IMDb. Someone wrote, why are some truths absolute? So like no matter of like regardless of what Phil does. So like, for example, Carl mentioned the old man dying. So no matter what Phil does in that loop, is that old man going to die no matter what? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was the point. I think that was the point, is that you have to let that go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's fine. That's good. All right. So let's get to a couple more like fun questions to kind of wrap this up. So this was Greg's idea, so I'm going to credit him with this. But Greg said best actual movie with the name Day associated with it. Now, let me give a little like pretense with this. It can't be Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because that doesn't give an actual name of the day. So I'm going to give you some examples, and you guys can think about this while I give some examples. So some candidates would be like Halloween, Independence Day, Draft Day, Patriots Day, Groundhog Day, movies like that. Now, I know that's not a lot of time to like sink in and do a deep dive on that, but give me your favorite movie about an actual day.
Does Training Day count?
You know,
that's a good one. I think that the gist of the question was more like referencing a specific day on a calendar.
Yeah.
So whether Friday counts, and that's Friday's like right on the limit. Friday the 13th.
Sure.
But yeah, I would say no on Training Day. But if Training Day was,
Training Day would be up there.
I'd be on board.
Yeah.
So Greg, since you have the most time to think about this, I'm going to give that one. I'm going to give that question.
The funny thing is, I didn't think about it after I asked it, but I mean, this is right up there. I think it's been so long since I've seen Independence Day. I love Draft Day. I mean, we can poke a lot of holes in that movie, but my favorite, if you throw all those, we'll do it simple. If you throw all those out there, I'd watch Draft Day before I'd watch any other movie.
Okay.
Those.
All right. Either Carl or Brett, whoever wants to go first.
I'd go with Independence Day, and which is funny because I look at Independence Day now and it's not that great of a movie.
What?
But I will
You're
still watch
crazy.
it if it's on. I will still watch it if it's on.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of great of a movie. You know, there's so many plot holes. There's so many goofy things that happen.
Like Aliens?
Yeah, well, not even the aliens. I'm not even including that. You know, just how like, oh, we devised a virus and we're gonna shoot a missile at you to load it up. Like, I don't even know how that works. Like, that's not even plausible. But I enjoy it. So I'm gonna go Independence Day.
Okay. And Carl, to you.
I would. Yeah. thank you. I need to discuss something here. The Independence Day is a tremendous movie on all fronts. There's aliens. You don't have to worry about how Jeff Goldblum thinks of recycling to upload a virus or whatever. Like there's no, or like, oh, you said catch a cold? All right, let's upload this virus into this alien ship. You can't think of it logically like that. Please don't do that to me ever again. I need to know that movie is a pure movie. It is, and it's tremendous. For that, the drunk cousin Eddie from what's his name?
Yeah.
What's his name?
McQuaid.
His real name.
Randy McQuaid.
Randy Quaid.
Yeah,
I said
Randy
actor.
Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you mean drunk Randy Quaid who flies crop dusters can't drive a fighter pilot up or fighter jet up to the thing? Like, yes, okay. There's, I think the if you can get past the first plot hole, that is, Will Smith punching that alien in the face, then you can get past the rest of the movie, or that aliens exist at all. But anyway, I digress. My favorite, unless we can put like unless I could sneak like Christmas Vacation in there just because it's Christmas, probably not. I don't know, but if I could, I would sneak that in there.
Longer period of time. So
Yeah, it's got to be a day. Yeah.
Okay, got to be a day. Well, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But then that might change things if you're talking about like a 24-hour time frame. But look, it's either Independence Day or I'm taking this one. I'm taking Groundhog Day. Like, I really love this movie. I mean, I love this movie for a long time.
Okay.
So this might be mine.
All right. Well, I'm in the camp of Independence Day too. I love that movie. It's just kind of a Hollywood cheesy blockbuster, and that's what we love movies for. This movie's
Great flick.
Groundhog Day. And then, Greg, I'm going to let you decide if this one counts or not, because I just thought of this one, that I love this Christmas movie. It's called The Night Before. So technically it's Christmas Eve because it's the night before Christmas. Does that count?
I'll allow it.
All right. So if I had to pick, I might pick that one. So in any order, I'm going to probably go Groundhog Day, Independence Day, and The Night Before. Those are my three.
Yeah. Not that we need
Perfect.
to add this one too, but wouldn't Four Christmases be the same thing? They would fall in. It's all Christmas Day.
We'll allow it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not adding it. I'm just saying. Just throwing it out there.
We'll allow it. All right. And let's just wrap up with a couple quick random questions here. Best character in the movie outside of Phil Connors?
Ned.
Franklin, we'll start with you.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with Greg on this one. He already said it. It's kind of who I was leaning towards. I got to go Ned. It's that it's that kind of jovial but asshole-ish kind of nature of him. Like, ridiculing him for stepping in the thing, but just wanting to, reminisce about the old days.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Greg.
Yep.
Yeah, Ned for me.
And Carl, you're going.
Got to be Needle Nose Ned the Head. I mean, there's no discussion for me for sure.
Okay. All right. That's good. Yeah, I'd have a hard time. I think the most important character is probably Andy McDowell's character, but with just maybe like fun characters, I think you got to go with Ned as well. All right, two more questions here. Favorite or no? I'll save the favorite. What is the actual meaning of this movie? Whoever wants it.
I'll take it. I think that I think that the whole purpose for the movie, for me, is being happy. In any situation, being happy where you are, being happy, just being a generally good person, regardless of what's happening around you. I think that's what, Rita's character is trying to, and I guess I touched on this a bit earlier, but her character is trying to sort of personify the entire movie from the beginning, of just being happy, excited. You're in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania or whatever. There's not a whole lot going on, and you got to listen to a groundhog, but that's, and then, Bill Murray just sort of gets it throughout the movie.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, I'd go with, along those lines too, but I'd go with just be happy, but be happy with who you are, and be kind to people. It's a stress of being kind. And even early on, there's a materialistic side to him that you can kind of like dig into if you so choose. But if you take away that materialistic side, Rita was pretty happy with just being who she was. Didn't care if it was wealthy or not. She just was happy with who she was, and I think that's where it lies.
Okay. And Greg?
Yeah, along the same lines. I remember when you had Coach / President Tressel on, and he had that quote, "Happiness is where I am." I think that's the theme of this movie, right? I mean,
yeah,
we are where we are. There are things that are uncontrollable, and it's how you it's what you make of the situation that you're in that'll drive your happiness and others' happiness.
Yeah.
You probably even throw in a live your day to the fullest.
yeah, literally.
Save those quotes, because I'm going to end on my last question here. But I'm gonna agree with all three of you guys. I think that's pretty much the base premise of the movie. You could kind of like in a coarse way say, don't be an asshole. Just become a good person and do good things for others, and you end up kind of being your true self. So yeah, I think that's a good one. So last thing I want to end with, and there's a bunch in this movie, and I'll give you guys time to Google it if you need to, but favorite quote in the movie, whoever wants it.
I already said I'm sticking with it. Is it too early for flapjacks?
Too early for flapjacks.
It makes me laugh every time.
So
I
good.
will laugh every single time.
Okay.
I know it's 2021, but this, that line just used to be so funny when these jokes were not as, mainstream and cancelable. But when he's going through what I already said is one of my favorite scenes, and going through the diner, and he looks at this guy and he's describing him, and he goes, and he's gay. And then he looks at him and he goes, I am.
That's really good. That's really good.
That's really good.
That makes me cry every time. It is so, just like he's like, I am. It's so funny. That's my favorite for sure.
That's good. I like that. Greg?
I mean, you guys hit on all of them really, and all the stuff that Ned says. One thing I just want to give a shout out to that it made me laugh, like it not necessarily a quote, but when he gave them the WrestleMania tickets at the end, I don't know why that just made me. I just thought that was hilarious, like how excited they were to get WrestleMania tickets, how random of like use that was. Like I think it was a really funny moment. Like I talked about, the back half of that movie doesn't have a lot of humor in it per se, and that was just like that made me laugh out loud watching it. And they're just like WrestleMania, like I would back in the 90s. Yeah, I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's good. I would have to say my favorite, and I did it in our kind of like little write-up for our preview for this is the one time where television really fails to capture the true excitement of a large squirrel predicting the weather.
Yes.
So, I love that. And just
that is good.
It goes perfectly along with his character, and just like the not narcissism, but like more of just the sarcasm that he portrays, especially at the beginning of the movie, is just great. All right, I want to, before I say thank you and we close this out, I had one more thing in my notes that we didn't get to, but this is something you guys can Google, and anybody watching can Google later. There's actually 2 deleted scenes that I found that are not in the movie that are fantastic, and they're on YouTube. So if you search these scenes, so one of you guys, I think it was maybe Brett, mentioned about bowling. So in the movie, they're in the bowling alley, and before they go out and on the railroad tracks and stuff. But he becomes, one of the skills they don't show in the movie, but they show in this deleted scene. He actually bowls a 300 game. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then the other scene they don't show, and this being a sports show kind of goes along with that. he's in a pool hall and he kind of hustles his way through the pool hall, but but these two random guys that you would see in like some small town come up to him and challenge him to a game. And then he's like, well, how about we bet on sports too, and he predicts like the exact scores of all these NBA games too. And I thought that was really cool. Didn't make the final cut of the movie, but kind of cool to look back on as a Ground Hog Day fan. So any closing thoughts from you guys before we end here?
The only thing, maybe this is a Twitter thing. After I think I texted this one to you this morning, and I've been thinking about it all day, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. We don't have to answer it, but let's a lot of times these movies get rebooted, right? So if you're doing a 2021 reboot of this movie, who plays Phil? And probably in 2021, Phil could be a woman. Phil could be that would probably be a possible reboot there too. I don't know, that's a tough one, like off the cuff, but maybe that's like a little Twitter follow-up thing. But
okay.
I have you in mind, but I don't want to say them because I want you guys to think about it.
Can I say mine? Because the first person that jumped to my mind was Brad Pitt.
Wow. Because
he's got that like Ocean's 11 personality where I think he could kind of be like a little snarky, but become like a decent guy at the end. That would be my first choice, I would say.
My first one was Chris Pratt.
Interesting.
Because of his goofy nature from Parks and Rec and how like just was that, but then you get to Star-Lord with in the Marvel universe and all that sort of stuff. And even Jurassic World, like he's played a little some more serious stuff. So I think that was the first one that came to my head.
Okay. Scott Hatterberg playing
Good. I like that. Carl, you got one for that, or you want to think on that?
Yeah, I didn't think about that ahead of time. To me, I would want it to be somebody kind of goofy, like a Saturday Night Live type of guy, like a Pete Davidson or somebody who could really. That'd be a silly. He's like kind of the first guy who comes to my head. I could probably think of somebody better, but. For the sake of this, I'll go with Pete Davidson. That's the first guy I thought of. I think he could be like definitely a jerk. Definitely, I don't know if you guys remember this. Well, I'm sure you just watched watched Groundhog Day again. But there was a scene about trying to get into an outside line where he's trying to call an outside line, and he's like, what about the satellites? The satellites are down. It's snowing in space. Don't they have lines open for celebrities or whatever? And he's just referring to himself. Yeah, or emergency, whatever. And he's like, he always refers to himself as like this big celebrity, and he's this big, huge deal, even though he's in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And I think Pete Davidson would be really funny at that.
Okay. Those are all really good. I like that.
Yeah, mine's Ed Helms.
Okay.
Great.
That's a good one.
That'd be awesome. That'd be hilarious.
But I also had 6 hours.
I think Ed Helms.
So that's, yeah.
I think Ed Helms would make an amazing Ned Ryerson.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
Got a punchable face.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So, guys, this is like kind of our first movie breakdown. I plan on doing a lot more of these going forward, especially in the sports realm, but especially this being Groundhog Day coming up. I just thought this was fun, and I can't thank you guys enough. This was pretty awesome, and way more detail and in depth than I had planned. So I appreciate all of your guys' knowledge, and that was cool. So let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Loved it.
All right, very good. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thanks.